Hey everyone, I got a little bit of the sniffles at the moment, but I should be okay. But I'm trying to record the last videos that I do for 2019, and this is my top 10 of 2019. This will be probably the first of, well, this will be the last top 10 I do this year. I've already just recorded on the Underground, that'll be the last review I do this year, and there'll probably be the odd vlog over Christmas, but there'll certainly be a vlog where I talk about, my top underrated, my overrated, my surprises, my convention visits, there'll be something like that for the year. But whether I do that before Christmas or after remains to be seen, but that's a vlog. The main attraction, obviously, that you're here for is Top 10 of 2019. Yes. What did I think of the year in general? It's alright. Yeah, it didn't really wow me this year. The games that I got on my top 10 and my shortlist, are like, oh yeah, these are all games I really like. But there was a lot of them on here where I'm like, yeah, they're 8 ratings, which means I do really like them, but are they really worthy of a top 10 list? There was only so many this year that I've given 9s and 10s to, and it meant that I could easily get the 12 games that I wanted to try out for this list, but then the hard bit was ranking those 10 to 12 games, because then it's like, okay, hang on a minute, yes, there's only so many games that I thought were like blow my mind worthy this year, but the ones that did blow my mind really blew my mind. So there was a hard and an easy side to doing this list. But I know some people out there are like, oh yeah, 2019 had 100 games that are fantastic. Yeah, I'm not quite siding with that one. I mean, I warmed up a bit more to 2018 after I thought that wasn't the best year, but this year I don't think was as good a year. I think there was a lot of rehashing. I thought there was a lot of games that came out that were okay but just didn't really meet the mark, or they were trying to copy what someone else had done and just not really done it any better than the old version did. I just really didn't get as much out of 2019 as I thought, so here's hoping that 2020 appeals to me a bit more. But of course, the top 10 of 2019, that's what you're here for. It feels good to get this black book again. Hopefully in 2020 I'll be able to do more top 10 lists, because there hasn't been many for the last month and a half because I've had to do stuff with Essen, and that was problematic, and I'll try to maybe taper how much I do next year. But for now, top 10 of 2019, let's get on with it. So in terms of this one, 10 really solid games on here that I can't wait to talk about. However, I am going to make a slight caveat here. Reprints are a tricky one when it comes to doing these top 10 lists. Board Game Geek doesn't always get it right. Sometimes they will give it a new entry and sometimes they won't. And I'm not always in agreement when they do and when they don't on some of these ones. So I admit I'm going to give an honourable mention. So I'm going to give a number 11 and a number 12 or whatever. I'll give an 11 and 12. And then if you don't agree with what I've done for 1 or 2 reprints on this list, then you can just, shuffle those out and move those 11 and 12 up. I give you the flexibility. But personally, I just had to draw a line somewhere and I thought, you know what? My gut tells me that this was an awesome game, worthy of 2019, and I want to talk about it, so there.
Everybody got that?
Now, of course, I've not played every single game from 2019, but as I always say, neither have you. So, there are games that I have not played. That's why I do these retrospective lists, a year later, so that I can catch up with those games. But these are the top 10 that I have played now, leading up to today's date. So this is including stuff I've only played for several, many times in December, because a lot of them get pushed back to this period. And I'll certainly mention a few games at the end on top of the Patreon choice of games that I didn't mention, that you're wondering, what did I think of those? I'll give like a quick overview. So without further ado, onwards. I'm going to save the honourable mentions until after the list because I want you to be guessing as to whether they're on there or not. But my number 10 follows on from Lebelud's line of doing these picture interpretation games. This is a mechanic I love in games like Detective Club and Mysterium and Dixit. These games are always great fun to me. And this publisher started off, doing Dixit a while back. Then they had Mysterium. Both love it. They're both on my shelf. The new one, Obscurio, meets my number 10, and I still think this one is a solid one to the year as well. It very much depends on what you want from one of these games. Do you want the party atmosphere? Do you want the co-op nature? Or do you want competitive with a traitor? Then pick one. But this one is the competitive one. In a sense, with a traitor. There's a team of people trying to escape a library, and the magic book is trying to help them, a bit like the Ghost of Mysterium. But one person in the group doesn't want to leave the library. They're like the colossal bookworm or something, or they've been seduced. And the idea is that the book is using the pictures, much like Dixit, in order to help them pick the right room to go to so they can eventually get out of the library. The traitor is deliberately putting in pictures that will throw them off, while also trying to spread discord and, like, you know, hurt their chances, and it's just a cool dynamic to the game. It is a lot more challenging than Mysterium and the others by far. I mean, I've heard occasional reports of people saying, oh yeah, this game's too easy, we always beat it. Yeah, there's a meme I'm just going to resurrect for that one. Wrong! I'm sorry, yeah right. This is tough on easy mode. On medium, it's definitely really tough. I don't know who is playing this on hard difficulty and thinking, oh yeah, this is easy, we win it majority of the time. No, the traitor wins the most times here. And don't even try to use the argument of, well, the players you play with are stupid, you know, because people interpret pictures in different ways, and I've never seen a game be a cakewalk with the exception of one time, and that was when the traitor really wasn't paying attention. You know, and they weren't doing their thing. But if the traitor even has a modicum of sense and puts the right sort of pictures in, nah, it's a challenge. With all those trap tokens that mess up your round, you know, make things harder with less time and putting red overlays on the pictures and that. No, this is tough. But the game is still really enjoyable. If you're a fan of those picture interpretation type mechanics, then by all means, give this one a try and then pick your poison out of which one you like best. Or you can just do what I do and own all 3 of them. And technically 4 if you include Deception. You know, and 5 if you include Detective Club. There's so many of these games, and I love this sort of interpretation mechanic. So, yeah, number 10, Obscurio. My number 9 is a small little filler game. Yes, even filler games can be, like, worthy of a top 10, especially if you want to play them often and if you get a lot of enjoyment after playing them. This is probably the most beautiful filler game you can ever come across. You know, for a game that takes supposedly no more than 30 minutes, depends if you've got a slow player around, but, you know, for a 30-minute filler, this is stark beautiful. It uses the artwork from one of my top 10 games of all time. It's a sequel, yes, but the theme is kind of not really existent in this one. You know, it was only sort of there in the old version, but in this one it's like, yeah, it's basically an abstracted card game. But I might even be able to get it off the shelf for you to see. Here we go. Abyss Conspiracy. Yeah, it's got a rubber band. I sleeved it. You know, watch the review to find out why. But yeah, Abyss Conspiracy. This is a 30-minute filler for up to 4 players, and I really, really like this one. It's so simple to teach. The rules are dead simple, and for any like card abilities that you're not sure of, the book explains it clearly. And it's this cool tug of war with you and the other players, where you're trying to build up this pyramid of cards, all with that lovely Abyss artwork on. Oh, it's so cute. Oh, I love it. Love this artwork. But you're building up this pyramid of the lords, and each of them have different point values and different abilities. You're trying to collect like a big group of one color and collect like the highest of each particular color. But the idea is that you draw cards from decks in order to populate your pyramid, but you choose how many you want to draw, up to 3. But then the ones that you don't pick, because you can only put one at a time, have to go out in a face-up display for everybody to see. So the more choice you give yourself, the more likelihood you're giving other players what they want. And then if things build up in the middle of like a particular color, somebody can just go, yeah, I'll take that entire stack. And that could be a job lot of points. It could accelerate their pyramid faster than you want them to. It's such a cool system. Clean, easy, streamlined. You know, you could play this with gateway level people, I think, without too much trouble. It's not a complicated game at all, but it's just portable, looks the business, and I got a kick out of it. You know, when I first saw it at Essen, you know, as a demo, the French guy who was teaching me, he taught it to me and we played it in 20 minutes. Super fast with 2 players. And even with 4 players, you are talking 30 minutes, 45 absolute tops with an AP player. You know, it should never take any longer than that. But I was genuinely surprised by how much I got into this game, thinking, oh, but Abyss, I wanted like a more involved negotiation type game sequel to Abyss. And maybe I'll get that in the future. But you know, for a small filler card game that pretty much just uses the universe that it's in, Conspiracy is a solid filler and worthy of my number 9. My number 8 is the first of my reprints, and something else I want to preface on this list. Every single game on this list, and pretty much all the other lists if it's a good enough time, has to be at least a rating 9. So these are rating 9 and 10s that I'm giving these ones. You know, these are fantastic games. You know, absolute like cream of the crop for me for this year. And number 8 is a reprint, but they did change up quite a bit in the old version, so I don't think people will have such a problem with me putting this one on the list. I mean, the Dice Tower did twice in fact, and that is Atlantis Rising 2.0. This is a reprinted co-op from a game that is a few years old, about 6 or 7, and the idea is that you are Atlanteans on an island that is sinking. It is slowly sinking away. Atlantis is being destroyed, and you're all trying to put together this big machine, sci-fi, whatever, gobbledygook machine that will lift your island up and teleport it to somewhere safe. Whatever, I mean, that's the plot. But the co-op, it's a co-op game, so again, it's nice that we actually get a decent co-op every now and again. And each of you has a character with an ability in these little Atlanteans, and you place them worker placement style on the various peninsula islands. It's almost like a big star that sort of goes off in different areas, and each peninsula is responsible for a type of action. But every turn, the island is going to slowly sink away in different bits, and the more closer to the edge you put your worker, the better the action is. But if the island sinks while you're still there, your worker comes back and you don't get anything for it. There's a lot of dice rolling, so it is quite a luck driven game in a sense. I mean, you can mitigate the luck, you can spend stuff to mitigate your die rolls, and you can certainly like push your odds, but it's pressing your luck in a sense, a lot of this game. So if you're not comfortable with that, then maybe you won't like this one as much. But it looks absolutely beautiful with Vincent Dutrait's artwork just smothered all over it. I've even got a play mat for it, so it looks even better while it's sinking. It looks like it really has sunk on this Neoprene play mat. But even if you've got the retail version, it doesn't matter. I mean, in fact, I do have the retail version, and it looks gorgeous and has great components. If you get the deluxe version with these extra, like, different resources, yeah, that's even better, but really, the retail is pretty much deluxe. Deluxe is just Deluxe Plus, you know, and you don't have to the playmat. I just bought it because I like playmats. I got a thing for them. So with this one, there's a lot of discussion amongst the group. Yes, you might get that one alpha gamer, but then at the end of the day, because you've got to do the pressure luck thing, they can't alpha game it to a great extent and have it go their way. They can't say, well, if you do this, you do this, you do this, and we'll be totally fine. Well, no, because luck might not go the way you want them to. But that aside, it's still really good, like, tactical game where you've got to react to the place sinking, you've got to try and keep it afloat, you've got to get the resources, build the components of this machine. There's different components every game with different powers that it gives you as you're building it, so the more you build, the better you're doing. But then the island is sinking really fast, and if it sinks too fast, you'll lose the game. There's just a lot going for this game. It is not a difficult one to teach. Probably wouldn't say it was a gateway co-op, but a next step one. You know, it would suit a game cafe just fine, although reading it from the rulebook, there's a fair amount you got to learn, so maybe I wouldn't say this is a pick up and play co-op, but I really enjoyed this one. I've been wanting to try this ever since Z Garcia talked about it before, and it's done its job. It's a great co-op. Again, doesn't always have to be Cult of the New. Cult of the Old is still good if you just want to give it a better lick of paint, shall we say. So, number 8, Atlantis Rising. My number 7 is the game that I literally just recorded before I did this video. Yes, this one is from LUDI Creations. It is again a reprint, but I think it's changed enough from the old one. And even then, like I said, like, it may be a reprint, but it feels different enough, and it's one that got me going this year. So I'm going to run with it. Same with the other reprint that's yet to come. And frankly, you guys tried to do it with Brass last year. You know, you got Brass Birmingham, you know, put in for so many accolades and awards when it was basically just Brass with beer. You know, great. So if you can do it with Brass, I can do it with these reprints. So I don't want to hear nothing from you guys on this one. But I can even show it to you because I reviewed it a second ago. On the Underground from LUDI Creations. Yes, this is a great, lightweight, almost gateway level game. Not quite, maybe next step, but it's on that cusp. But it's this really cool tactical game where you're building up network connections in a metro station, well, metro subway network, and you've got this passenger, the laziest passenger in the world. And he wants to travel to lots of different spots all over the board as the game goes on. But he always wants to take they always want to take the easiest route. They don't want to walk. They could take a route that literally loops them round the entire map as long as they don't have to walk and make any changes. But if they have to go, oh, do I really have to walk that 10 meters to that stop? No, I'm taking a train. Yeah, their motivations are kind of weird, but it's a great tactical game as you build up your route connections to try and figure out what's the best way to get this guy to use my routes to get from his A to B. You get points every time. There's other ways to score points by connecting up certain spots on the board. Of course, people are blocking you in. There's only so many places you can go. Everybody's slagging off the passenger as well as everybody else's network. You know, it's just a fun, light game. Player scaling is a little bit of an issue, which is why it's not quite as high on the list as it could be, but I still gave this one a 9. It's still a fantastic, reprint, aesthetically pleasing, looks gorgeous. It's probably Ludi Creations' best looking game, and it just flows smoothly. Once you've got the passenger movement rules down, which is the only slightly fiddly bit in it, it's very smooth to play, very easy to teach, so simple to teach, and just does the job nicely and proves that games as old as 2006, when the original one came out, are still worth checking out to this day. And it doesn't always have to be, oh well, it came out in the last 2 years, yeah, I'm looking for the next one on Kickstarter now. No. Old ones are still great, and this is a great way to prove it. On the Underground, a wordy number 7. Now, if you had a problem with those 2 reprints, you're gonna have a big problem with this reprint, because this is the one where I'm kind of towing the line a little bit, but it gave me such pleasure to play it, gave me such pleasure to review it, and I feel that from what I've researched, feels like they changed a reasonable amount from the 2nd edition, but, you know, Board Game Geek doesn't give it its own 2019 spot on the list. But then, to be honest, I've spoken up enough about how much I don't really trust the BGG database these days, so, I'm running with it. You did brass, I'm doing this. But it has to be said, all these reprints that I've put on the list, what can I say? 2019 was just not a fantastic year for games in my opinion, so I'm having to use reprints to come up with a top 10. Think about that. There are other games on this list that I'll mention later which are good games, but just couldn't make the rating of 9 or 10 to blow my mind. They're just good games, maybe great games, but just not stand out. I want to talk about these sort of games. And this one, like I say, if you don't like it, then just shuffle my list up a bit. But Porter Games. Yes, I know some people are thinking, well, hang on, this is just a 2010 game with a slight tweak in that. It has a few tweaks. I mean, it has a few things that they've changed which do fundamentally improve things. The artwork and aesthetics of it are completely different from the previous version. I mean, it looks so good, so colourful, and so much better on the board. They have changed layouts. They have changed certain rules with things like contracts and that. I feel it deserves a 2019 spot. If you can do it with brass, then I can do it with this, okay? That's the way I'm going with it. But Porter is my answer to economic games. I don't normally like economic games, I mean, apart from the lightweight ones. Lightweight economic's okay because it just feels more simple, it's quick, and you get it out of the way. But I'm an accountant, a tax accountant. I don't need to do my job as a board game. And when you start getting into the heavy economic games, I'm like, oh, this feels too much like work. This one, though, is the economic game that is heavy. This is heavy, that I can get behind and go, yes, love it. This is what I want from a heavy economic game. Porter has a unique theme with the fashion industry. No one else has done that, great. Something different than just, ooh, I get to buy oil and turn it into better oil and sell it for this much. Who cares?
Lord help me, what? You need it on the bridge, sir. Knock on my door, knock next time.
Oil. At least the fashion industry is a bit more interesting. But the theme is super strong, looks the business. It really is, heavy with how much money I need. Oh, how much money do I need to buy these fabrics to put on this collection? The show's coming up. They really care about qualities. That means I'm going to need to buy from overseas to get the quality tokens. But then, hang on, they're looking at the size of the collection. So can I get 5 here? How much is that going to cost me? Oh, God, I need to get money from the bank. Maybe I should buy a couple of employees and buildings, but then I need to keep up with the upkeep. There's a lot you got to deal with and a lot you got to keep up track here. But I just got a kick out of this one. And I think the theme and the aesthetics help a lot. I rag on brass a bit because I'm not a fan of the gameplay and the theme in that one, but I gotta admit, I have to give it props. You want to make a reprint look good, you want to make an economic game look good, you give it that artwork. It really did the job for brass. But this is a similar thing. Porter looked gorgeous on the board, and it has a super strong and interesting setting and theme. And that just sucked me in a lot better. Again, this is one that all I'd heard about was Sam Healey talk about it on the Dice Tower, and I wanted to play it since. When the 3rd edition was announced, it's like, I want it, I want to try it, and I'm so glad I did. This is easily my favourite heavy economic game of all time, and Lord knows whether anything will even come close to beating that in the future. But for me, who's not usually a fan of the economic game genre, to get this hyped up about it, you got to admit that speaks volumes. And I say this about other people I know. There are friends of mine who, they say, oh yeah, I really like, awkward guess. This one here is a good example, just quick little story. A friend of mine who, I play games with, great guy, he said that he really likes Awkward Guess. And I'd never played it before. I tried it at GridCon recently and I enjoyed it. That's why it's still there. But the thing is, I know he doesn't like deduction games. He doesn't like this sort of Cluedo-esque type thing of figuring out that he doesn't do detective games or anything like that. So it's not his genre or his style of game. But he loves this one. So for him to get on board with this, for me, that speaks more volumes than somebody who is a fan of the genre saying, oh yeah, this game's fantastic. Because you almost think they kind of have to. Like they're obliged to say it's great because they love the genre so much. But if you don't like it, and you still like a particular game, that is what really gets me interested. That's like, ooh, okay, I gotta look into this now. And I'm glad it is, a solid game. But same with Predaporter, same deal. I don't like economic games for the most part. But this one is amazing, you gotta try it. My number 6. My number 5, let's go down the hype train. Yes, I usually attack the hype train like crazy, like, this game cannot deserve the hype that it got. You're overrating it like crazy. And there have been some occasions this year where that has been true. But I'm not going to say that this game lived up to the hype. Because most games don't live up to the hype. Hype basically destroys the board game industry, in my opinion. It destroys it slowly from the inside with all this like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever, it's going to be amazing, look, here, 10 out of 10, we got to play it. And then everybody slags it off going, oh, it's garbage, don't like it, 2 out of 10. It's like, hype just really doesn't work. This one though, yes, okay, it didn't live up to its hype, but it's still a fantastic game, and that is Wingspan. Wingspan still works so well on a lot of levels. It is a nice, straightforward engine builder game that doesn't take too long until you play it with 5 players and maybe 4, and then it's a bit long. But, you play it 2 to 3 players. I like the solo mode in it, is really good. I'll play it with 4 players, with people who I know are familiar with the game, because the turns are still quick. But it's just smooth and elegant. Just play the bird cards. Then, do I want food? Do I want eggs? Do I want to play cards? Trigger the powers, and it's just nice and smooth. It looks great. You'll learn a bit about birds as well. The European expansion has made it even better with different powers and improving the objective tiles, which I must admit was a weak link. But now that that's there, it's like, great. Now I've got interesting objectives to use every game. It's nice. It's pretty. And the theme is nice. I mean, yeah, okay, the theme doesn't like stand out like crazy. I mean, yeah, you got eggs, whoopee-doo, but birds, it's not really being done. You get to look at pretty pictures of birds, and it may not be thematic, but the game at least, pops on the table and it sings to a lot of people who are new to games. You don't want to give them like, oh, look, it's fantasy dragons and orcs. Oh, look, it's sci-fi Star Wars, whatever, but birds just appeals to a lot of people, and like animals in general. And there are friends of mine, and I haven't tried it on my family because I don't think they would understand it that much. I don't think my parents would get it, but there are friends of mine who are relatively new to gaming who have latched onto this like crazy. They're always asking me to bring this game, and I will happily do so because it's just nice to have a lightweight engine builder that doesn't outstay its welcome all the time, looks the business, and yet has plenty of variety that each game I can try something different. Am I going to go full on food, full on eggs, full on cards? Am I going to do a balanced approach? Am I going to have predator birds? Am I going to just, spam tiny birds? And with the European expansion, you got even more things you can do. So, granted, doesn't live up to the hype. No game will. And granted, I don't agree with STONEMAIER's way of designing box sizes so that they can hold expansions. Yep, don't agree with that practice at all. But, the game itself, Wingspan, is still worthy of a top 10 of 2019 list. Regardless of whether you think it lives up to the hype or not, it's still a great game. So number 5, Wingspan. My number 4, we're getting into the 10 ratings now. We're getting to the ones that I give a 10. These are like, these games are so good and I want to play these as often as possible. And it was so hard to rank these next 4. I am not joking. Seriously, if you're wondering like, well, you could, are you sure this one's better than this one? Honestly, my 1, 2, 3, and 4 could interchange at any moment. They're that good and that close to me in terms of how much I like them. So take this ranking with a pinch of salt, but just know that these next 4 games are like, oh yes, so good. And this one, we're back to Portal games again. Portal, for me, is you know, people give Portal a bit of shtick for things like rulebooks and the first Martians launch and stuff like that. And granted, you know, it's taken them, you know, their rulebooks are not perfect, although they have improved vastly in recent years. And, you know, they sometimes have some questionable launches. But in all, their lineup of games is really solid. There's a lot of Portal games I own. There's a lot of Portal games I would happily play that I don't own. You know, they're just very good little family knit business. I mean, not literal family, but if you've ever met them at conventions and that, they feel like such a close group, as if they, you know, like they've known each other for years and years. And to be honest, they have. I mean, 20th birthday, well on, Portal. But this one is just another great one to the lineup. It takes a game that I liked already, Imperial Settlers, and then gives us Empires of the North. Yes, this one definitely deserves a spot on this list. It's basically, I do own both at the moment, but I must admit, I'm still thinking about how long I'll keep Imperial Settlers for. Because what this one does, it gives you that same engine building feeling of play the cards, use the buildings and different abilities to get victory points. And it's a straight up engine builder at the end of the day. But aesthetically, it looks really pleasing. The artwork's got all sorts of cutesy little Easter eggs in there. It's like, I mean, I've played this with girl mates of mine who just go goo goo gaga over the pictures like crazy. And it's just so fun to watch. But what it does is that it gives each clan its own deck. You don't have to deck build in this one like you now have to do with Imperial Settlers because of all the expansions. Here, you just get a new clan, one deck, shuffle it, go. Setup time is really quick. Teaching time is pretty quick. You can get a game of this done from the ground up pretty fast compared to a lot of engine builder games. And each clan feels very different in how it plays. I mean, you've got to adapt your strategies to the way the clan works. You know, one wants to go sailing off as often as possible. One is just about building up a giant tableau of cards. One is all about its fields. One is about using the workers to like trigger abilities, come back off and trigger them again. The Japanese faction adds in stuff like trading with other players and like storage mechanics. And now we've got Roman factions coming. I mean, they can just pump out the expansions to this and it will be seamless integration. Because again, you don't have to deck build. I can just go, alright, I'm teaching you this game completely off the bat. You three, take a couple of base game factions. I'll take this Roman one here. Doesn't matter, it doesn't throw the game off kilter. I get to pick a harder faction to work with because I'm familiar with the game. The others get to pick something a bit simpler. And we all have a great time. And it has a really good solo mode again to boot. There's just nothing really bad to say about this game, and same with the other three that are on my list, you know, they're just all solid, amazing games. This one though, if you were a little bit ho-hum on Imperial Settlers, I definitely recommend you give this one a try. If you were a fan of Imperial Settlers, I see no reason why you wouldn't like this game. Which one you like better? Tomato, tomato, pick your poison. I, for the moment, have both, and I think you can own both. But if I was to say, okay, which one do you prefer out of Empires of the North and Imperial Settlers? Oh yeah, Empires of the North would win hands down, you know. And I'd be IGNACY at it as well, so that probably helps. But, you know.
Ah, smug mode.
It's still fantastic game. Check it out. My number 3 is a Euro game. Yeah, oh my god, Euro game is top 3? Oh my god. Yeah, okay, I do like Euro games, people, alright? It's not like it's a surprise, you know, take a look at my shelf. But this one is, it feels like a typical Euro game in the sense of, oh yeah, we've seen this kind of setting before, you know, your villagers going off and exploring and here's some tracks to level up and that. But the thing about this one is that looks the business. Michael Menzel does the artwork in this and it's like, yes, everything he touches from a board looks great. It's smooth and elegant. The rules are not that difficult to teach, but everything just flows. You never feel like in the game you're just going, ooh, clunky, clunky. If you hear a bit of noise, it is absolutely going gaga downpouring outside. You know, we are flooding like crazy these days. So if you hear a bit of rain, sorry. But it's just so smooth a Euro game, and that is TERRAMARA from QUINED Games. This one has just been singing to me. You know, yeah, okay, you've just got a track with your caravans, you've got a track with the culture boat, you've got a track for military, and normally I'm like, tracks, what is going on? But the cool worker placement with this, I mean, it's worker placement, that's already a good thing. It's midweight, so it's not too heavy to be convoluted and ridiculously complex, but it's not light enough to not give you a good degree of variety and depth. But the worker placement twist in this I really like. You have your workers that you put out on all these different action spaces, which chop and change every game. You have these tiles that you put in a frame, and they will be different every single game, which will make resources sparser or more plentiful depending on the thing. It will open up different scoring opportunities. There's so much variety. But with the workers, if you put them out on the top like couple of rows to begin with, you'll get them back at the end of the round. But the further down the chain you send them, like to send them out further into the wilderness, they get you better rewards. But you don't get the worker back until the round marker catches up to them. And as the round finishes, you flip the tiles over to reveal different actions and a scoring opportunity that you can take. But then by doing that, you're also closer and closer and closer to those workers that you put down earlier, but also those more lucrative actions. So it starts off, in a decent level and then ramps up and gets to a good crescendo. On top of that, you've got different ways to score, from artifact cards that you buy, kind of a bit like Gentest in the way it works, but, cards with different scoring opportunities and bonuses. You've got 3 different tracks that you can focus on for different paths to victory. You've even got a drafting phase at the start to get starting resources that are different. Teotihuacan did a similar thing, and I love that in games where you get different starting things than other players. But you can also have a character card who, on the young side, gives you a really cool, really powerful ability. But then if you flip it to adulthood, it's permanently there, but it gives you a new way to score based on what you were doing before. So it gives you guidance to a path to victory, but you don't have to do it. You could just ignore the scoring opportunity and just say, you know what, I just want to be able to level up on the river track as fast as possible. Will I score any more for it? No, but it will enable me to do other things. And it just, so many possibilities with this, but I think it's just because, the theme is nothing new. Oh, look, you are ancient settlers and you go off and you get resources and turn them into better resources. It's a resource management game. It's not the most original game ever, apart from that worker placement twist, which I think is pretty original, pretty innovative. But it's just something about the fact that it looks beautiful and how smooth it is. I mean, occasionally you have to check up a card meaning, but it's not as bad as people seem to think. People seem to give this one a bit too much flack for its rulebook. Personally, I didn't really have a problem learning this game, and teaching it. I don't know what it is. It just sings to me. It ticks every box that I want from a good midweight Euro game. This is easily my favorite Euro game of the year. Easily, hands down, my favorite Euro game of the year. But then Empires of the North was 4, and Wingspan was 5, and what else was there? Predator was 6. There's been a few Euro games I've really liked this year. But this one, I think, is hands down my favourite one. So, have that as a guess for what my 1 and 2 could be. Honestly, I think I've gone on about it too much. Check out my review for more details. But TERRAMARA, my number 3. My number 2 is Fantasy Flight sucking me into their netherworld of, oh my god, give me all your money, Luke, yes. All your money belongs to us. It's like, they have a habit of doing this. They did it with the Lord of the Rings card game. They did it with the Arkham Horror card game. Yep, this one is equally hyped as well, but, a solid game. Marvel Champions. This is another cooperative LCG, now set in the Marvel universe. Well, fantastic. I love Marvel, so that's a good start. Some different heroes than I was expecting. Captain Marvel and She-Hulk, unexpected, but, not unwelcome. I like Captain Marvel. And She-Hulk I just know nothing about, but it's different. It's a different character. I'll run with it. But we're going to get packs like Captain America and the Green Goblin and Miss Marvel, whoever she is. My lore on Marvel is not extensive, okay? Beyond the movies. But I really do like the way this card game works. Now, it's not perfect. It's a 10 rating, but I don't think this works as well at 3 and 4 player. I think the downtime is just a bit too much in 3 and 4 player. The game goes on a bit too long, but some people disagree with that, and that's fine. If it works for you at 3 and 4 player, then by all means do, because at least you're playing the game. But this is a fantastic 1 and 2 player game. 1 player you can play two-handed, which is probably the best way to play it, actually. And I never thought I'd say that, because normally I'm a true solo player. But it works at true solo as well. And with this one, it's similar to things like Sentinels, the Multiverse, and a couple of other, like Marvel Legendary and that, where you have your hero, a band of heroes going up against one main villain, and the villain has a scheme that they're trying to fulfill. And you are constantly trying to thwart the scheme, but also battle the villain. And your card, your avatar effectively has an alter ego. So if you're Spider-Man, you're Peter Parker, or Spider-Man, and you flip between the two on a regular basis. But when you're in one form, you have access to different cards or a recovery ability, but you can't deal damage and the scheme continues on. But if you go to hero form, you get access to more damaging cards, but then the villain comes in and smacks you around a bit. And there's a great puzzle aspect of, what form do I need to be in it around? Do I need them to scheme or do I need them to hit me a little bit? Can I take the hit? And on top of that, it's not quite multi-use cards, but it's that great mechanic of, I want to buy this card. Well, how do I pay for it? You discard cards with the resources on it. Oh, so hang on, so I have to give up these cards as well if I want to play that? Yep. Oh no! It's like, you want to play this card, but you don't want to give up this card, and it's just such a good thought process. Now, this is early days. I'm talking just from a core set perspective here. The first 3 packs we're getting literally in one go, but I probably won't see those until after Christmas, or maybe in the new year. It depends when they get delivered. But, I'm looking forward to seeing what these packs can do. I mean, I'm really looking forward to playing Captain America. I want to play Captain America and see what he's like as a hero. But then I also want to face off against the Green Goblin using Spider-Man as my hero. I want to create these thematic battles. And it's just a wonderful, great LCG. I'm now going to have 3 LCGs on the go. Thank you, Fantasy Flight. My wallet loves you. But, it's just really solid. Cool artwork, nice and colourful, good mechanics. Takes a bit to learn, there's a fair amount you need to learn in this game. It's certainly not the most simplistic thing in the world, but there's a lot of good ideas for deck building. It's not the most difficult deck builder in the world. And as a core set, it's nicely self-contained and, gives you all you need. You don't have to buy multiple core sets like you did with the other ones. Granted, this costs twice as much as a normal core set, but it's nice that it gives you a complete package and doesn't require you to buy multiple copies. So all in all, really solid LCG, Marvel Champions, my number 2. And now, my number 1. Yes, what game could have beaten out all these fantastic games that I talk about 2019 being a bad year, but like I said, my kind of short list of games was a lot of good games, but my top 10 were just like, how do I rank these together? They're just all so good. But this one, it was tough. Do I put this one as number 1, or Marvel Champions, or Empires of the North, or TERRAMARA? I literally could not tell which, but I had to think, which one am I really most anxious to get to the table again, all time soon? Which one has the quickest setup time? One that I can go, what, I want to play this game, so which one can I just quickly get in and get started playing? Which one looks the absolute business? Which one has a theme that sings to me? And certainly Marvel sings to me quite a lot, but then this one sings to me as much, if not slightly more, who knows? And this one I had to think, it was a hard choice and they could interchange. But this is the one that makes my number 1 spot, and I reviewed it quite a while ago. Back in April time, I think April, May time I did this review. So it's been holding on to that spot for effectively most of the year. We've got DLC content for it, we've got a new mode coming out for it, and they can just release more content via the app. Yes, it is Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth is my number 1 game this year. It's just so nice and simple. I've got my decks in a bag. All I got to do, lay out my play map, put the app on, select what mission I'm in, or continue from the last save. There's my cards, there's some models, go. Just get going. I can get into an adventure nice and quick. And it's tense, you've got to race against the clock while trying to explore these different locations, killing, taking control of famous Lord of the Rings characters and even a couple of different ones from the lore that have been made up. And you're on this cool tile map, there's a good story, the campaign's nice and long, you're talking like 14 plus missions per campaign, so there's a good amount of content. Each character plays very differently. The cards that you can put in your deck, you can level up and gain experience and try out different combos. Different combos of characters in the game work differently. I mean, I play Legolas and Elora, something beginning with E, but the other elfish lady, I play those two in one game, and it's completely different playstyle to when I play Aragorn and Gimli, for example, in another one. The DLC content is added another campaign that has more branching paths, so, even more content than the previous campaign. And if you weren't a fan of the whole pressured under time aspect, they're now bringing in a new mode where you play the game, but it gives you more time to explore. It doesn't accelerate it up to ridiculous levels. It's kind of playing it on easy mode, but then you get to explore more, you get to see more of the game, you get to spend a bit more time in this world, and I'd say that's a good thing. I'm glad they've released it. I'll probably even play it that way for a while, but, you know, I'm fine with it either way. But this one just appeals to my love of Lord of the Rings. It gives me what Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition gave me before, which is a way to take out all the fiddly bookkeeping and all the unnecessary setup and that you have in these miniature adventure games and just go, here's your app. And the app's great, gives you a nice backing music track, everything is crystal clear, it just works so well. I really enjoy this one, and I look forward to getting more content for it, but I also really look forward to getting it on the table and just continuing with the second campaign. I don't think I've even finished it all yet, but you know, I'm part way through that, and then I want to play it again with different characters and try out this new Gateway Adventure mode. You know, there's so much I want to try with this Lord of the Rings game, and again, Marvel Champions, TerRAMARA and Empires of the North, they could interchange. I've loved them so much this year, it was so hard to rank my top 4, but they're definitely, all 4 of those games are ones that you need to check out ASAP. But then to be honest, so's the rest of this list. That's my top 10 of 2019, and very quickly we'll go on to the Patreon choice because, yeah, it's not quite much of a surprise, really. The Patreon choice basically agreed what I was saying. You know, the most common answer I got back was Wingspan and Journeys in Middle-earth. I've already talked about them, so I'm not going to belabor the point anymore, but suffice to say that the Lord of the Rings game and the Wingspan one just resonated with a lot of people. There was one other one that was mentioned once, Nagaraja, I think it's called. I have not played this game, I've barely seen it, I would like to try it, but I know so little about this game that I can't really give it much of an overview. But yeah, generally people also liked Wingspan and people also liked Journeys in Middle-earth, and that came up the most in my Patreon choice. So, games that I mentioned honourable mentions. Well, if you don't like the way I did the reprints, then consider my 11 and 12 as thus. My number 12, Ancient World 2nd Edition, and I know you're thinking, well, hang on, that's another reprint, but it's very different from the first edition. I mean, Ryan Lockett tweaked a lot in this, and it's a cool engine building card game where you've got to battle these giant monsters to collect sets of banners, but you're building buildings. You've got a very tense worker placement aspect. Looks the business like all of his games do. It's a solid reprint of a game that I never really got to try in its first edition, but the second edition is solid. And my number 11, Tainted Grail. Yes, Tainted Grail I've only got recently, so I haven't had a chance to give it full beans yet, which is why it couldn't really move further up the list. But it looks the business, the miniatures are fantastic, the artwork on the cards as it builds up this panoramic picture as you explore this really dark, gritty world of Arthurian legends. It's a really solid adventure game. But it's not moving further up the list because there are 1 or 2 reservations I have about it, and well, you'll have to wait and see when I get round to playing enough of the game that I can give it a decent review in January to see what I'm on about with that. But Tainted Grail, if you thought that Pret Porter and the odd reprints were a bit like, I'm not so sure, Luke, then take them off, move it up, and then Tainted Grail becomes my number 10. You know, either way, as long as you create a decent list, I'm happy. So, what missed the short list? Well, I crossed off everything that I rated a 7, so immediately they weren't available. But games that I kind of rated an 8 or a 7, you know, or a close 9, but just didn't quite meet the list. We are talking, let's see, we have Cooper Island, you know, solid Euro, heavy Euro, but just not enough to make my top 10. Point Salad, really cool filler game, you know, just does the business, gateway level, but not quite top 10 worthy, because player scaling, it really doesn't work with more players. What have we got? Sierra West, decent Euro game with a cool programming mechanic, but despite the different modes of play it has, it does have a balance issue with the buildings, and that takes it out of a top 10 running. Pharaon, I reviewed this recently, a really cool point salad Euro game, looks the business, nice and simple, a really good solo mode, just not quite enough to give it a 9 rating, and, you know, obviously not for a top 10 contender. Old West Empresario, this was a big surprise. Yeah, I didn't think that this sequel to Pioneer Days would entertain me as much as it did, but the city building game with the taverns and all these other things that you can do, it just really worked as a cool light dice Euro game, and I really got a kick out of it, but not quite to the levels of these top 10. Alright, let's see. We got Edge of Darkness, haven't played it enough to really give it a full review in that because it's a hard one to get to the table and that is hurting it a bit. It's a big box with a big setup, you know, it's a kind of a Gloomhaven problem and it's, you know, that does hurt it a bit. Outer Rim, solid, still on my shelf, but it's an 8 rating, not quite top 10 worthy, but it's a cool pick up and deliver game with a Star Wars scum and villainy theme, and if you're going to do pick up and delivery, this is the way I kind of want it done. Villagers, great drafting game, but not top 10 worthy, you know, it's nice lightweight, I enjoy it, you know, good little sized box, it's just not quite the top tier level. What else we got? Cool, there's quite a few on there, I must admit. Mention those, there's not many left. Detective City of Kings, I've only played it solo and I like it, but I feel that playing it solo is a weak way to play the game, you know. I want to play it as the chisel and then see how it goes in that form, but as a pure solo game, it's kind of a bit lackluster so far. And Paladins of the West Kingdom, good heavy Euro, lots of you know, different thinky mechanics that you got to do, looks the business, but review of that should be coming out, or it's either already out, but it's only come out recently. If not, maybe I've left it till after Christmas, you'll see. But my problem with Paladins of the West Kingdom is that Architects of the West Kingdom I just think is so much better than it. It's smoother, it's easier to get to the table. Paladins lacks a little bit on the variety side when you think about it, because some actions you have to coordinate with each other, otherwise you're not going to do well. And it, you know, has a, like, squeezing it in the box is a pain. It's got a high setup time. It's multiplayer solitaire. Not enough to make it like top 10 worthy. So yeah, that was pretty much my shortlist. And there were a few other games that were rated 7s, like Reavers of Midgard, Letter Jam, Roll and Write, Imperial Settlers, Deep Blue, Boss Chakra, you know, Lavina. There was quite a few, you know, Tapestry I considered, but nah, just not quite good enough really, and that was a bit of a letdown hype-wise. And I'm sure there was plenty of games I haven't even mentioned at all that you're thinking, well, hang on, these are my favourites of the year. I mean, what happened to Pipeline? Boring. What happened to Barrage? Don't like it. You know, so that's the nice way I'm going to put it. You'll have to wait till my next vlog to find out my further views on those games. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of games that people liked in 2019. I just wasn't as big of a fan as others. But still have to say that my top 10 games were just like blew my mind amazing. And then my top 20 would like have a lot of cool games in it. But then once I get past top 20, I'm like, yeah, they're good games, but they're not standout worthy, you know, they're not ones that are going to blow my mind like crazy. So a bit of a weak year, I have to admit, for 2019, but maybe 2020 people will start hopefully being a bit more innovative with their designs, because when they do, they turn out crackers. But yeah, you know, we'll have to wait and see. The board game industry is getting a lot more bloated. Maybe I'm getting a little jaded, I don't know, because there's so many games out and a lot of them just feel the same as other ones. You know, it's not quite the same kind of like, oh, kid in the candy store type feeling where everything is new and everything's different. Now it doesn't feel like everything is new and different, and that hurts a lot of games. They may be good, but just like, they're good, but then you have this one. This is good, but then there's this one. Why do I need this one? Everyone's trying to replace an older game, and I say older, you know, like 3 to 5 years old. Old is not exactly old, but yeah, everyone's obsessed with like, oh yeah, this replaces this now. Does it? Are you sure? You know, we'll wait and see. But yeah, that's the last top 10 for this year. You know, I hope you've enjoyed the Broken Meeple channel up to this point. You know, I need to do a reflection on the channel, I think. Maybe I'll do that as a ending vlog for 2019, or maybe one to start 2020 off, you know, before season 4 kicks off. You know, but I look forward to continuing this channel with you guys. Thank you for supporting it through like the last several years I've been doing this, particularly the last year, where there's been some pretty big changes in terms of the format and the sound and everything, and there's some changes to come for 2020 as well. But for now, hope you have a great like Christmas break. I need a rest. I've been going mad. As soon as I've edited these videos, that's it. I'm taking a break for Christmas. You know, no more stuff apart from maybe a vlog, you know, to come out over the Christmas break. But for the most part, no more top 10s, no more reviews until we get back in January. So have a good Christmas, have a happy new year, and I will see you on the next Broken Meeple video. Remember, regardless of what you're doing this Christmas, it's still only a game. Take care and have a great time.